Hello, my name is Kathy Schultz, and I am the Water Education Specialist with the California Department of Water Resources. Welcome to Water Wednesday. We started Water Wednesday in this past spring in response to the COVID-19 pandemic, and we've kept it going. And each week we are joined by a different DWR employee who shares their expertise with us. Past Water Wednesday episodes, if you're joining us for the first time or you've been joining us intermittently, you can find the past episodes on our DWR YouTube channel. We are on our 6th Water Wednesday series. We usually group a number of presentations on one very broad topic into series, and this is our 6th one. We just wrapped up one on careers in water resources, looking specifically at some of the jobs involved with delivering water throughout California. And today we are kicking off our new series on watersheds, what they are, why they're important, and some of the risks that they face. The mission of the California Department of Water Resources is to sustainably manage the water resources of California in cooperation with other agencies to benefit the state's people and protect, restore, and enhance the natural and human environments. And one of the ways of looking at the environment and how water moves through it is at a watershed level. You may have heard the expression, we all live in a watershed, or everything flows downstream. And basically what this means is we're all connected by the water that falls as rain or snow, not just where we live, but upstream as well, at the higher elevations. And this water, it moves down, usually downhill through rivers and streams, and usually towards the ocean, usually, not always. And that's how we're all connected. So today we are joined by Tracy Pettit-Polhemus, who will be talking more about watersheds, and one watershed in particular that's very important to a lot of people in California, the Feather River watershed. So I will be turning things over to Tracy in just a moment. Before I do so, I just want to go over a couple of logistics for those who are joining on Zoom, perhaps for the first time. As you know, we did ask you to join with your microphones and your video cameras turned off, your microphones on mute, your videos turned off. And this is just to minimize any background noise, the barking dogs, the leaf blowers that might come through and be distracting. But we really do want to hear from you. So if you go down to the bottom of your screen, if you're familiar with Zoom, you know that's where the chat box is. And you can click on that chat box and send any questions that you have to Tracy to me. So you want to send them to me. And when Tracy's done with her presentation, I'll go through the chat box and we'll answer as many of your questions as we can. If you would like to have captions going, we do have a captioner who is doing live captioning while we speak. And you simply scoot over a little bit to the right on that bottom screen and click on the box that says CC with closed captions below it. And if that came up for you automatically and you don't want to see captions, then you can just click on it and that will turn it off. So I think that goes over on how to use Zoom, and I think we'll go ahead and turn things over to Tracy. Thanks for joining us again, Tracy.
Thank you. Hi. So let me get to our presentation. Hi, everyone. My name is Tracy Pettit-Polhemus. I work for the California Department of Water Resources in the State Water Project Operations. I am the chief of the Water Management Branch. And I'm here to talk to you about watersheds. What are they? What is a watershed? What are the unique characteristics? Why are they important? And as Kathy mentioned, the Feather River watershed, the importance of that. So what is a watershed? Well, it's an area of land where precipitation and snow collects and drains toward the lowest point. And when I talk about the lowest point, and you can see that at the bottom of your screen, the lowest point, it could be the river, the bay, a lake, a reservoir, the sea, the ocean, a wetland. It's just the lowest point of this area. And some of the flow will flow on top of the surface. Some will percolate into the ground and go into the groundwater that goes into the stream. Some of it gets evaporated. Some of it is used by folks like you and I, the plants. Some of it is soaked into the groundwater. So the watershed includes all the surface water that comes in from rain and snow, and the streams and rivers, and it conveys the water. It also includes groundwater underneath, as well as the land surfaces, meaning like paved parking lot or something like that where water drains. From this picture, you can see it's kind of like a funnel. It collects all the water and channels it to the single point or the lowest point. So let's talk about boundaries. What are boundaries? Well, what they do is they separate the different watersheds. And so they are the high points, as you can see in this picture, the ridge. You know, they're mountains, they're hills, but they surround the lake or the river segment. So these boundaries are these lines that connect the high points, like you see the ridge or this, what is titled the watershed divide. Those form a barrier, and that's the barrier itself is called the watershed divide or a drainage divide. So do you think you live in a watershed? No matter where you live, we all live in a watershed, and they come in different sizes, various shapes. So let's think about magnitude. They can be very small, like a few acres that flow into a small stream or a wetland area, or they can be huge, several thousands of square miles with several rivers going into say, a large lake. So what makes a watershed unique? It can be very dynamic. It could be a wet watershed or a dry watershed. It all depends on how much water it gets, its land conditions, how large is the watershed. That's the key. And like I said, that makes a watershed unique. So it's tied to how much volume of water that drains from it, which is tied to the size and the flow of the main water body. Quality and the quantity or flow depends on the season, the year, and the individual storms. So, oops. Another aspect of what makes a watershed unique is also the hydrology. In the North Coast, you can see how green it is. Green means how wet it is. The red down in the east side of Southern California, that's how dry it is, very desert-like. And so the topography, the hydrology, the climate. So you can see there are areas that are really wet and really dry, but that plays a role in the watershed. The other part is land use. You know, is it agriculture? Is it urban? Are there a lot of cities? What's going on within each basin? The other thing is the topography. I kind of had mentioned that up here when I was talking about hydrology, but the topography plays a big role. It's, you know, is it mountainous? Does it have a lot of hills? Is it flat? Does it have some hills? You know, that plays a role. And then lastly, or one of the other components would be the soil type, the geology. Is it on the northeast side? Is it volcanic? Is it sedimentary? Is it in the center of the valley? You can see a lot of alluvium, kind of like the sandy soils. It absorbs water easier versus, say, the volcanics, which water runs on top. So those are characteristics that make each watershed unique. So let's talk about watersheds. So within California, there are 10 watersheds, and they're divided mainly by similar characteristics. Watersheds are generally named after the major water body. However, you know, there are some that are, like I said, divided or named by characteristics. Say the North Coast on the northwest corner of California. that receives a lot of the precip. In the Central Valley, that includes Sacramento, San Joaquin, Tulare. It's the largest watershed. Then you have the San Francisco Bay, Central Coast, and South Coast. A lot of population, very little runoff. Then you have the Colorado River Basin, and that passes through several states. Then you have the Lahontan, both the north and the south. And it sounds funny because you're like, there's no Lahontan Lake or river, but it is an ancient lake bed. And so it's on the eastern side of California. So this is a map of California with those 10 different watersheds. So keep in mind, a watershed, a drainage basin, they're the same word. They mean the same thing. So looking at this map, do you see where you live? So which watershed do you live in? If you live in Sacramento, you're part of the Sacramento River watershed. If you live in the Bay Area, San Francisco, you're part of the San Francisco Bay watershed. If you live down in Southern California, you could be part of the South Coast watershed or the Colorado watershed. So there's a lot of places that you can live in that are parts of these different watersheds. So looking at this map and looking at the different rivers, do you think that all rivers, do all watersheds have rivers that go into the ocean of California? Do you see, you can see the Sacramento River, it flows into the San Francisco Bay and ultimately making its way to the ocean. So when you think of what watersheds, what's an example of a watershed that goes into the ocean? Well, it's Sacramento River watershed, the Feather watershed, the American watershed, San Joaquin River watershed. Do you see some that do not go to the ocean? So in a watershed, we talked about going to the lowest point, and some go to the ocean and some don't. So the ones that do not go and the water stays in a local area, it's called the closed basins. And so they go to a single point, like a sink, like it would be Salton Sea or a permanent lake, or it gets lost underground. Those are called closed basins. So looking at this map, what looks to be the largest watershed? Well, it's the Sacramento River watershed. Covers over 27,000 square miles from the Oregon border to the Delta. And here's another, what are the two largest rivers that flow through California into the Pacific Ocean? Well, it's the Sacramento and the San Joaquin. So are there any watersheds with rivers that enter California? Yes. So not only do we have those leaving California, the rivers, the water flows through the watershed and goes out to the ocean, but we have some watersheds that straddle state borders. And so the two are Klamath, which is in the north coast, and it's by Siskiyou, or Amargosa, which is in the South Lahontan Basin. So this is a map, you know, we're talking about watersheds. There are about 190 watersheds in California. Look at this map. It has all these varying colors of watershed. And so Klamath is number 4, and I think Amargosa is number 142 in this map. So I have a circle, and that circle circles the Feather River watershed. So the Feather River watershed encompasses 3,200 square miles. The high point is about 10,000, the low point is about 2,000 feet. The importance of this watershed is that our dam, Lake Oroville, captures all the water from this watershed. And the importance is it's the start of the State Water Project. And the State Water Project provides water to folks along the Feather River, the North Bay, the South Bay, the San Joaquin Valley, and Southern California. And when you think about it, with Lake Oroville being the start of the State Water Project, it covers and provides water to about 25 to 30 million residents of California. That's a lot of people that take all or some of the water from the State Water Project. The Say Water Project also irrigates about 750,000 acres of crops in the Sacramento and San Joaquin, and it contributes to the economy of California. So why are watersheds important? Well, they provide for so many uses. And let's look at the big picture. So looking at this picture, what do you think they are? Well, there's recreation. They provide water to a water body. So you have swimming. Do you guys like swimming? Do you like being on a boat? How about fishing? Always remember when you're near water or on water or in water to be safe. Then there's water supply. This is water provided to cities and towns, to industry, industrial uses, manufacturing, and to agriculture. And so this water provides, water for bathing, for eating, and to grow the crops for food for both you and I and the animals. But also, when you're looking downstream of a watershed, they also provide water for the environment, for fish, for plants. So again, that was the bigger picture, and we were looking downstream or a bigger picture of what watersheds do. But within the watershed, it's like a smaller environment. And by that, I mean it does collect and capture all the water into one location. It filters and stores the water in the soil, and then it releases water. So within a watershed, it provides water for drinking. It provides water for recreation, like swimming and boating, because we all like playing in water. It's fun. It provides for agriculture, again, to grow those crops. Now, this is within the watershed. And it provides life to the habitat, such as plants and fish. And again, for recreation and for agriculture or industrial use, it all supports the economy. And that's it.
All right, thank you, Tracy. So if I could ask you before you stop sharing your screen, could you go back to the slide with all the watersheds on it?
Yes. There you go.
Can you go back to the one that had the big watersheds? So not the sub-level.
That one or this one?
This one here, yeah. So one of the things you mentioned that the Sacramento River watershed is 27,000 square miles. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I just wanted to draw the attention to, and then the Feather River watershed is inside the Sacramento River watershed, right?
Correct. Right.
And then I just wanted to draw attention to the people who are watching that the Sacramento River watershed is actually in an even larger watershed, which is the Bay Delta watershed, which actually includes the Sacramento River, the San Joaquin River, the Tulare River, and the San Francisco Bay watershed. So it's really kind of interesting that there's all these different levels of watershed, whether it's like you said, your neighborhood creek, or I mean, the Bay Delta watershed covers, what is it, about a third of the state or so?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's quite large.
It is, and it's really important. We start up at this Feather River, but then all these other rivers drain into it, and then we actually move the water across watersheds, right?
Yes, we do. So when you think about it, water from the Feather River enters the Sacramento River watershed, because the Feather River is a small part of the Sacramento River, and then it moves south.
Right. All right, if you want to stop sharing your screen, we'll go ahead and get to some questions because they are coming in. All right. So one of the first questions is, what divides one watershed from another?
What divides, it's those the hills and the mountains. So that's what divides. It's the highest point within the watershed. So if you have a drop of water, it could either fall into the current watershed or may fall in the watershed next door.
So kind of like it was, I don't know if people who are watching have seen Jurassic Park, but when he drops the drop of water on his hand, it can go down one side or the other if it falls on the ridge.
Mm-hmm. It does. Yes.
Are there watersheds in deserts?
Yes, there are. So you can have a dry watershed.
What's a dry watershed?
Well, a dry watershed receives little rain,
Okay,
and so it would be more dry compared to, say, the North Coast.
got it. Okay.
And we saw that map, but the other thing, and I wanted to show, well, I guess it's hard to see. Here we go. What I wanted to show was when you think about, a watershed, I know you're like, crumpling a piece of paper, but this is more of a physical alignment of it. And so here is the high point right here.
Okay.
And then here's a ridge
Mm-hmm.
and another ridge. And you can see how it can drain. There's various low points.
Okay. All right. Neat. So if people wanted to see how a watershed would work at home, you can crumple up that piece of paper and then trace the lines and where the water would flow and get a sense of how a
Correct.
watershed works and how many watersheds you could get onto your piece of paper.
Yes, you can.
Great. What are some of the threats to health that watersheds in California are facing?
A lot of it has to do with pollution, urban, the land development within a watershed, pollution, chemicals. Those are things that are some of the threats that pose to watersheds.
I don't know if you'll know the answer to this question. We have somebody asking, what is the difference between a watershed and a fish reproduction stream? I know you're an engineer, not a fish biologist.
No, but I would think when you think of a stream, that is a part of a watershed. So, in a stream, you can have different streams with different purposes, or people do things to different streams. So, but it's all part of a larger watershed.
Mm-hmm. So the stream itself could be its own small watershed, but usually
Correct.
we look at them on a larger scale.
Correct.
Okay. And obviously, a healthy watershed is important if we're going to have streams that are healthy enough for fish to reproduce in them.
For the habitat and for you and I, for us to get fresh water and for critters, yes.
Mm-hmm. So there was a question from the audience about, isn't the Tulare Basin naturally a closed basin? The maps I've seen show it as not part of the Delta watershed. So that was me saying that, not to you.
It's actually, the Sacramento and San Joaquin they flow into the Delta.
Uh-huh.
And then, yes.
Okay, so the Tulare Basin is not part of that watershed? No. It doesn't flow into it? Okay, all right. Then I am going to drop a line to another website, let them know that they've got it a little bit wrong, or look into it a little bit more carefully. Yeah. I'm not quite sure what that one is. Somebody's asking about watersheds and estuaries. Is the watershed the same thing as an estuary?
No, they're not. Estuary, you think of the Delta.
Mm-hmm.
Dendritic, a lot of channels. It's a low point when you think of the where the Sacramento and the San Joaquin meet. It's a low point. And so, no, estuary is the low point of a watershed, and it can be within a watershed, but they're two different words.
So an estuary is also where the ocean and the freshwater generally meet. So not every watershed would lead down to an estuary, but correct. Some of them certainly do.
Yeah, like the Sacramento and San Joaquin, where you have that integration in the estuary of both freshwater and saltwater.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So we talked a little bit about some of the threats to watersheds. What can people do to help keep their watershed healthy?
Oh, there's a lot that we can do, and we want to ever be mindful of making sure that our watershed is healthy. Mm-hmm. What we want to do is conserve water. What we want to do is reduce the use of fertilizers, or find fertilizers that are more friendly, if you will, or not as have such a big chemical impact. You want to plant drought-friendly plants that don't take up a lot of water. Showers, keep it short. Those are some of the things. Pick up trash, make sure that when you visit a watershed, and like you said, like I said earlier, we all live in a watershed. So by taking care of it, by doing those things, will help keep our watershed healthy and clean.
Are there things that DWR is doing to help keep the watersheds healthy?
Yes, we have several offices that work with local entities to find ways within the community to sustain watersheds. We provide money for grants and to find projects that have many and multiple beneficial use to protect the watershed.
Okay. One final question. The artificial channels like the California Aqueduct, are they considered, they're not considered a watershed, right?
No, no. I mean, it's a conveyance facility.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Because that's actually what we've talked about, moving the water between watersheds, and how usually ridges are the defining point, and those channels, they help us get up and over some of those ridges, like down at the Tehachapi Mountains.
Right. Right.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much, Tracy. We are almost out of time.
You're welcome.
But I do want to thank you, Tracy. Actually, this is her second time being with us at Water Wednesday. She was with us about 6 months ago, talking about how we get our water during the hot, dry summer months, and the role that reservoirs play in getting us through the dry season. So you can find Tracy's other presentation, like I said, on our YouTube channel. And I just want to thank you so much for coming back and talking to us today.
It was a pleasure.
Hey.
I enjoyed it.
We will be back next week with Daniel Wisherup, who will be talking about the impact of wildfires on watershed health and some of the work that DWR is doing to monitor and or mitigate some of those impacts. So, wildfires have been a big topic in the news, especially in recent years, and they can have a pretty significant impact on watershed health. So if you're interested in learning a little bit more about that, we will be talking about that next week with Daniel. In the meantime, if you are interested in learning more about the Department of Water Resources, you can always visit our homepage, our website, which is water.ca.gov. And there's lots of different places that you can go for there. Water basics on water conservation. Like Tracy said, water conservation is a great way to help keep the watersheds healthy. You can learn more about the local support that we provide to different organizations and agencies to help on a more local level with watershed management. And we also have educational resources. You can go to water.ca.gov/education for links to other sites, as well as links to our order page for different educational materials to learn about water in California. If you are really data driven, or you really want to know what's going on with your local watershed, there are some great sites that you can visit. USGS has 2 sites, water.usgs.gov/WSC. And this provides a link to numerous additional sites that give data on watersheds, not just in California, but throughout the country. And then if you go further than that, /watersheds.html, you can get even more information on watersheds. That's actually the one that has the sites throughout the country. /WSC is very specific data sites. EPA.gov allows you to look specifically /waterdata /how-my-waterway. Lets you look up your home watershed and see what different water quality issues may be impacting your local watershed. And Model My Watershed is actually a really fun site where you can not only see the health of your watershed, but you can put in different parameters and run different scenarios based on land cover or conservation measures. So if you're interested in seeing other things that you can do to help protect water quality in your watershed, Model My Watershed is a great site for that. And if you are interested, again, in keeping up with DWR or finding out about more of our upcoming Water Wednesdays, please do follow us on social media. We are on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we are on Twitter, and we are also on LinkedIn as well. And I do see we had one more question in about finding out about reservoir levels. Tracy, it's on our website. Is it CDEC?
Yeah, the California Data Exchange Center. So CDEC I forgot water.ca.gov, but it has all kinds of information for reservoir levels, flows, water quality. Yes.
All right. Yeah, so that's one of the great things about the internet is you can find lots of data out there. So thank you again, Tracy, for joining us. Thank you, everybody in the audience, and we hope to see you here next week for our piece on wildfire and watersheds. In the meantime, take care, stay safe, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.